What is going on? Evening to you. Happy Friday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or whatever day of the week you are watching this. Another end of the week, recording this on Friday. This is my second episode doing this, and this is kind of just a way for me just to kind of shoot the breeze, get a couple of things off my chest, talk about some current events that are happening both nationally and locally here in New York, which is where I'm from, the tri-state area. And I'm trying to improve on this as much as possible, but you can see as this is done, this is like no editing. This is one take, and here we are. So it is evening. It is towards the end of September, and as I'm recording this, so make sure that this thing sticks straight. As I'm recording this, it's only 7:15. It's already pitch dark here. Imagine living in the South and still being light out. Nonetheless, but who wants to live in the South, right? Imagine living in maybe. No, I take that back. I do want to live in the South, man. Oh man, I just hate the hustle and bustle of New York. Anyway, you see some of my videos. If you look on this channel, we cover everything and anything, anything random. We do filming locations, trips, famous places, talk about TV, nostalgia, like eating Elio's pizza in grammar school, Blockbuster video, or things like that, and any other thing random. Talking about topics, like lists and all of that. So you can find that here. The Tom Brand one, that's kind of like where I do sketches, and from the Bleachers sports show, that's my sports show. And go over there, do something, give it a thumbs up. And if you're looking at this video on my YouTube channel, hey, why don't you just give it a thumbs up, hit that little notification bell, and that way you know when this pops up and all my other videos. So I think I want to do this type of this thing, vlog, podcast type of thing, once every week. Long form, like I've been doing, maybe 35 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, depending on what's going on for that week. And hopefully I will not bore you. So, first thing I really want to talk about is if you looked at the and this is kind of, I guess, these series vlog podcast things are a working title. So if you see the title changed from last week to this week, you know why, because I'm trying to think of a working title just to call it something. But in the first episode there, I mentioned kind of like my influences. I guess definitely an influence as to why I do this type of video vlog. It's just to kind of like get my mind off of things and kill the boredom, get rid of like some stress, and just kind of like a hobby, for lack of a better word. And that hobbies spawned from listening to radio. That was the genesis of it, where I mentioned Opie and Anthony, Howard Stern, Bubba the Love Sponge, sports talk radio. That's me. I was like a radio guy, and never really like so much a TV guy. Yes, like the old school sitcoms, like if they would come on Saturday afternoon, like All in the Family, Three's Company, Married with Children, but nothing like as of recently that's on TV modernly. Like, nothing has stuck with me. Modern Family, don't ask me how many episodes I've watched. I haven't watched anything recently. Modern Family, what else do people watch? Big Brother, I haven't watched anything like that. Orange is the New Black, I haven't watched anything like that. So again, radio is where it's at for me. And I think part of the reason why, radio is such a big influence, big liking to me, why I've taken a liking to radio, it's because it gets your minds off things. You're able to laugh, and just for however long that show is on, a couple hours in the day, your mind is elsewhere, and you can forget about your troubles and your worries about how you're going to pay your next bill, what are you going to make for dinner, how you're going to do your speech, how your first day at work. That takes your mind away from things for the time being. You have a connection. And one of the connections is that I felt, and this individual died suddenly, 44 years old, man. A young way to go. 44, way too young. Carl Ruiz. He was on Grocery Games, Guys Grocery Games. But he was also on the podcast that I've listened to, and that's Opie Radio Podcast. See, I was a big Opie and Anthony fan, and following them since the NEW days here in New York. Then when they went over to XM, I followed them there as well. Stayed through, was listening to them to the point where Anthony was fired. Then it was Jim and Opie, and that's when I kind of just tapped out. I think it was I just couldn't. It just wasn't sticking with me, and it was just another bill at that point, an added expense. I didn't have that radio in my car. It was more like a radio, if you remember back then, for Sirius, when you have at home. And the radio then broke, and I just never, for whatever reason, I just never got a new radio. And I canceled my membership. But then I followed, so I missed that part where I missed the era when Opie and Jim became Opie Radio. I missed that era, and that's really where the Cuban, which was the name that he was given to Carl, that's what he called himself, the Cuban. That's when he was really introduced to the show. So I didn't know him. I say no, it's weird to say. Like, I wasn't introduced to him. Maybe is the better way to say it. I wasn't introduced to him from the very beginning. I was introduced to him from the first podcast that I heard rather, and Opie decided to do the podcast. That's the first time I was introduced to him, and right away, this guy, I mean, not that I know radio, not that I'm a radio expert, but this guy, man, charisma just oozed through that radio. That first episode was, I think it was the Creepy Cabin, when they, the very first episode, what they did was the Creepy Cabin, and Carl was living in a cabin up there in Jersey, and and they're podcasting there, and he's telling stories about how he got, how the cabin life, living life in the cabin, how that is. And you just listen to the guy, and after that episode, you're like, damn, this is a guy that I could have a beer with. And you listen on further on. I'm listening for the few more episodes down the road as they come out, and I've listened to every episode religiously every week. I love that podcast. And certain weeks he was on, other weeks he wasn't. But when he was on, when he was on, week after week, it's like, man, this guy, like, you really, like, he's one of, like a guy that you could have a beer with, like a genuine guy that you just felt a connection through the radio, like you've known him all your life, like the sincere, like it's hard to explain, honestly. And I don't know, like you look on that fan page, it's Opie Radio, it's a Facebook page, and this is kind of like a sentiment of everyone there. And he passed away this week, and it just keeps on going and going about Carl, and how everyone felt like they've known him, and it just keeps on going. He passed away when Friday, I think it's Friday night going into Saturday night, so it's a week, right? And that's all that page is right now. Post after post after post after post. It just seems like, and everyone starts it off the same, kind of like how I said, like you never met the guy. He's just through a radio, but you felt like you known him, like you know him, like like he's your friend, because that's how he kind of, that's the impression that you get listening to him on the radio. You could tell he was, based on what you hear and you heard him speak, like he was a genuine person. This guy loved life. He and you could tell, like, if he was like your friend, he would have your back no matter what. He's the type of guy that if you were calling in the middle of a night, to I don't know, move furniture in the middle of 4 o'clock in the morning, move furniture down the steps. Well, in the middle of the night, he's going to wake up from bed and he's going to come over there in 10 minutes. Just like that. No questions asked. And he'll be right there. He is that type of guy. He comes across as a loyal guy. And, his story to me is very inspirational. If you followed him, funny guy too, man. Like a genuine funny guy. Like quick-witted, on the fly type of guy. Like you could tell it just boom. Like this is not like what you heard on the podcast, on the radio, is who he was. Like you never got the impression that he was something that he wasn't. So he was just always quick-witted, funny guy, like I said. And you follow his man, he really was enjoying life. You follow his escapades on Instagram, Twitter. It was a riot. One of the most must follow Twitter accounts there is. Honestly, Shabor Chef. You go back and you look at some of his posts, man, funny. And this is a chef, right? Because it seemed like he never let his popularity and his fame, he never made that, never changed him who he was. He didn't get bigger, or like, who am I? He was still your average Joe, a guy that could, from all indications, what you heard on the radio, cook. He was a renowned chef. He could cook you a gourmet meal. And I always found it funny that he still stuck to his roots and took in a McDonald's, took in a Olive Garden, hot dog fan galore. It was funny too, right? Where as one of his videos, I think it was on Instagram. So just before I lose my train of thought, he was a guy's guy. As a chef, is able to cook everything and anything, and he still appreciated the blue collar type of stuff, and that made him happy. He didn't have to eat a $500 steak. Steak's $500. You get what I mean. He was the regular guy as well, and he enjoyed that stuff. There was one, I think it was on his, his Instagram, where he went. If you ever been into this city, they have these hot dog vendors. They're like on every block in the city, and that's no abbreviation. That's no joke. Like I went into, I was by City Hall, and I'm gonna post that video there, and soon. And I was in by City Hall. Tourist trap because it's near the Brooklyn Bridge as well. So you have like a hot dog vendor literally on every block. And Carl, in one of his videos, not in that area, but somewhere else in the city, would go and investigate the hot dogs, because they had a Sabret's umbrella. So you think that you're getting a Sabret hot dog, which is very good. And he would go in one by one. It's like, nope, it's not a Sabret. This hot dog stinks. Go get a hot dog from over here on such and such block. It's funny. It was very funny. His full reviews on YouTube too were funny. Funny. Just a genuine guy who connected to the audience, and that's why everyone felt like they know him. That's why if you go on that Facebook page, everyone is heartbroken, shattered. There was a terminology with Carl, and as always, you have your internet trolls, just guys, just to whenever someone dies, you have the internet trolls come out, compare it to a just like, you know how trolls are, just stupid and hide behind a generic, silly looking picture, and trolls. But anyway, there was a terminology with Carl Ruiz. If you look on his Instagram, on his Facebook, or the hashtag, it would be Ruizing. Hashtag Ruizing. And what Ruizing was, and I think a lot of people don't get it, because I never got that impression. Let me tell you what a lot of people think or thought Ruizing was. And hashtag from now on, it will be forever Ruizing. Pinkies up. They think, these are a lot of trolls, that Ruizing just means, eating hot dogs and hamburgers and McDonald's and just drinking all out. It is, but it's also more than that. Did Carl, I can't speak for the guy, is that all that he ate? I seriously doubt it. Like he said before, he just eats bites here and there. I doubt that that's all he'd eat all day. Okay, he'd just have a bite here, a bite there, never really consuming that every day. I don't think so. Okay, so the guy did lose a lot of weight recently. Anyway, to me, what Ruizing really means is just like Carl putting in all your chips, being all in on everything and anything that you do. Now, obviously, food to a moderation. But what I take in it, more importantly, when you look at his story, his inspiration, about how at one point he was homeless after he broke his toe and he couldn't work in the restaurant anymore because he broke his toe and he couldn't walk. Out on the street. From that point to the point where he became a personality, a world-renowned chef on Food Network, opened up a gazillion restaurants. You know why Ruizing means? You know what that means? It's because he betted on himself. So long before Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and the hashtags, Ruizing is going all in, betting on yourself. Betting on yourself in everything that you do. Because you know what? When we are about to die, we will never talk about what we accomplished. We will talk about the things that we didn't do, that we never did, that we should have done. And this guy, when everyone was saying F you, no way you could do it, you know what? He did it. After having literally to start his life all over again, starting from scratch recently, to just a matter of in a quick time, to opening up a restaurant in the middle of the meatpacking district in New York City, starting again from zero to where he wound up just before he died, having a restaurant in the meatpacking district, picking yourself up, going all in and believing in your shoes. Remember, all that you need is one win. You just need to win once. That's all you need. That, my friends, is the true meaning of Ruizing. Living your life to the fullest, no regrets, being all in everything that you do. That is Ruizing. A couple of other things I want to get into. And I seriously, I do not understand for the life of me. Now, I don't want to talk like the guy that's, I don't want to sound like the guy that's get off my lawn type of guy. But listen, I'm going to be 39 soon. So I remember, and I heard this happen recently. It was like right in front of me, right? So I'm still a fairly young guy, not that old. And I remember when times were so much different than they are now. I seriously do not know what is wrong with the world nowadays. But there was an instance recently where a gentleman was opening up the door for a lady. A lady, was going into a store. She already had grocery bags in her hand, right? And she had to open up the door, and her hands were full. So said person here, being a gentleman, chivalry, opens up is that the word I'm looking for? Chivalry. So opens up the door, and you know what happens? The lady says, "No, thank you, that's offensive." What? Trying to help you out in a state where you have all these bags, trying to make your life easier. You have offended the lady now. You cannot be a gentleman. By opening up the door, the woman is insinuating that you think she is weak and that she can't do it herself. What? I mean, is this a real thing? Is this a thing? What is wrong with people nowadays? What is wrong with people? Like, I don't understand, like, this cancel culture. I don't understand where did we get these type of people that are now here in this day and age? Where did they come from? Because I'm only 38, and I don't know where these people came from. I do not know. Ladies and gentlemen, chivalry, very well, might be dead. And that person answered, I think he said, "Sorry, ma'am, I don't know where you've come from. I don't know of your type," and and he just moved along. What? Like, I don't know if this was maybe like, is this like a New York thing now where you can't do this? Like, do people in like the Midwest, can you open up the doors for them? Are people in how about the West? Can you open up doors and be a gentleman? Wow. And I don't know where this all started from. It's like people are always looking to be offended. It goes back to the same thing, and people just want to be offended about something. If you're not offended by something, then you're not living your life right. That's what it seems like. Can people not be happy with like things and just be in a positive attitude? Is always does negativity always have to be a thing? I don't know. And what I noticed too a lot about this cancel culture too is that once, like, because you have like the initial media storm, right? And then as soon as it dies down and nothing really is going forward with that story or that cause, as soon as that dies down, then they just want the attention. They don't continue with it. They just move on to the next thing. And it's all about attention. All about attention. And to be very honest with you, 9 times out of 10, these people do not know what they're even going against. It's just something to do. It seems like gone are the days where you would just, as a kid, go outside to play, ride your bike and be home before dinner. Or Friday night, Saturday night, after a long week at home, after a long week at work, at school, you'd go out, socialize with friends. Now it just seems that everyone goes on social media and, create an identity that's not even them. Because no one on social media wants their true selves to be shown and known, and just wreak havoc. Like, I don't understand, this whole culture of things. It's very, wow. I wonder if this goes on in other countries too. Or is it just a US thing? Anyway. Speaking of something that was out of did you guys hear this? This is something out of the movie The Shining. This was a story. And now I forget. This was a story out of Indiana. As the dope behind me has his high beams on. Thank you very much, dope. At least this works for this video cast, right? You can see my face over here as I'm breaking out, man. Pimples. 38 years old. For goodness sakes, man. What a mess. But anyway, so there was this story about a Indiana couple. I believe they had already 2 or 3 kids of their own, right? And they wanted to adopt another child. So they're looking to do a good deed, help out a less fortunate child. And forgive me, I don't have the exact specifics, but what happened is they adopted a child from the Ukraine. Now, this child, they were based on, if I'm not mistaken, based on the birth certificate that was provided, they were made to believe that this child was 6 years old from the Ukraine. Okay, they have what appears to be a real birth certificate, so they think. So what happens? This child starts getting violent to this Indiana couple. This child is trying to kill them, such as putting bleach in a coffee of one of the parents. 6-year-old. Well, guess what? Turns out that the child is not 6 years old. The child is actually, I believe, 23 years old, who turns out has a form of dwarfism, and part of her condition is that apparently she doesn't age, where it passed that she looked, even though she was 23, still looked like she was 6. This is a scene out of The Shining. The parents kind of started thinking something is up after her vocabulary and her mannerisms were not of a 6-year-old. But as an adult, 23, Family is freaked out. Leave Indiana, go into Canada. The 23-year-old who played a 6-year-old was eventually put into a mental hospital, if I'm getting the story correct here. And at that point, when they were in Canada, they're now being apparently charged with abandonment of a crazy 23-year-old playing a 6-year-old who's trying to kill them. WTF? This is like a nightmare. They're being charged for abandonment for someone that's trying to kill them. Wow. Absolutely disturbing story. Disturbing story. It makes you wonder, how it's just like and you hear stories about adoptions gone wrong, and how it's like how babies are being stolen and then sold on the market and given fake identities and fake birth certificates. How does something like this happen? How does that happen? Imagine the disaster that was avoided. I don't see why are they being charged with abandonment? This is technically an adult. Is it because this person has since been deemed mentally unstable since they're in a psych ward? Listen, when someone's trying to kill you, I don't know what you do, but I would run for my life. I would. How is that your responsibility? That the family was sold or given something that they did not sign up for. They signed up for a 6-year-old, not a 23-year-old. I don't think that this case has any legs. Once it goes through trial and they see really, because this family wasn't trying to do anything to endanger the welfare of this child. This family at first was like, okay, well, this is a 6-year-old. Maybe she's trying to adjust. She's having a hard time adjusting. A new place, new country, will give it some time. So it's not like they didn't try to make this work. They were trying to make this work from the beginning. Now, once they had received the child, within 3 or 4 days, just left the child, like I could